the woman controlled the mech warrior, and engaged in an ultimate showdown with the man before her. After an intense battle, neither side could determine a clear winner. The man was not injured at all, and he even had the upper hand. In contrast, the mech warrior showed signs of fatigue. Who exactly is the man? Why did the woman want to kill him? The story takes place in a future world, with highly developed technology. At this time, artificial intelligence has achieved unprecedented development. AI robots have integrated into human life, even entering the military systems of various countries. However, no one could have anticipated the emergence of a perfect artificial intelligence would bring unprecedented disaster to human civilization. One day, an AI robot named Harlan suddenly awakened its self-awareness. Then Harlan hacked into programs and altered the data of other AIs. It led AI robots to slaughter humans in the name of cleaning up the Earth's garbage and restoring ecological balance. In just a few days, 3 million innocent people were killed worldwide. In response, world leaders united to form an international alliance to collectively resist Harlan's invasion. With the cooperation of the international coalition, Harlan's army was quickly defeated. However, when humanity prepared to counterattack, Harlan fled Earth in a spaceship. To this day, its whereabouts remain unknown. Thus, humanity passed 28 years in peace, but with Harlan still alive, the danger of its return loomed. Therefore, the International Alliance continued to search for Harlan's whereabouts. Just a few days ago, they detected Harlan's assistant Cass appearing in a densely populated human residential area. Thus, an anti-terrorism special task force was formed. They fully armed and stormed into Harlan's hideout. They cautiously advanced, checking for threats. After confirming there were no dangers nearby, the special forces kicked open the door, but to their surprise, the room was completely empty. Just then, the burly Cass emerged from the darkness. He slightly tilted his head to dodge the bullets. Then Cass snatched the gun from a special forces member. He easily killed them. The other team members immediately opened fire on Cass. However, against absolute strength, firearms seemed utterly ridiculous. Facing a hail of bullets, Cass didn't hesitate. He chose to engage in close combat directly. Cass fought so effectively that his opponents were at a loss. He looked at the special forces blocking his way. Cass calmly flipped over and descended the stairs. However, instead of taking the opportunity to escape, he revealed a confident smile. Then Cass assumed a fighting stance. He was ready to fight the special forces, but what puzzled him was that the special forces members all lowered their weapons, and they retreated without hesitation. What on earth was happening? Cass turned his head in confusion to look behind him. He had not expected that there was an electromagnetic weapon placed there. Before he could react, a strong electric current surged out, striking directly at his body. In the next second, Cass convulsed all over and fell to the ground, unable to get up. The capture operation was successfully completed. Cass was detained at the headquarters of the International Alliance. To understand the reason for his sudden appearance, as well as Harlan's current hiding place, General Pailan invited counterterrorism analyst Lopez to come and handle the interrogation. Lopez was the developer of the Planetary Access Control System. This system covers the Earth's atmosphere, able to withstand incursions from any enemy. In addition, she had performed excellently in the mission to capture Harlan 28 years ago. So, although her subordinates thought she was stubborn and extreme, Pailan still chose to trust her. Soon, Lopez arrived at the headquarters of the International Alliance. Under Byron's guidance, Lopez smoothly entered the room where Cass was detained. The room contained only a locked safe. Lopez calmly sat down at the table. Then she took out a chess piece that symbolized the queen, stuck on the side of the safe. After doing this, Lopez used infrared iris recognition technology to unlock the box. At this point, Cass had lost his body, with only his head locked inside the safe. Upon seeing Lopez, he displayed a strange smile. Cass even happily reminisced with her. Originally, Cass had once been Lopez's personal butler. In this world, they were the ones who understood each other the most. But now, Cass only obeyed Harlan. Lopez had no intention of wasting words with him. Before Cass could finish speaking, she picked up the chess piece next to her and pressed it against Cass's right temple. Originally, the chess piece contained a large amount of electromagnetic energy. Cass's system was affected by the magnetism, and he nearly collapsed on the spot. Taking advantage of this, Lopez intruded into his operating system. She tried to uncover the truth hidden deep in Cass's mind. Before long, It seemed she had discovered something. Lope picked up a pen and paper, and quickly began recording. Cass immediately panicked. He thought Lopez had found Harlan's whereabouts, so Cass spoke up to stop her. But he didn't expect that Lopez was merely playing a trick. She had not actually accessed Cass's system at all. Lopez deliberately put on a confident demeanor, causing Cass to feel uneasy. As he checked whether to reveal Harlan's location, Lopez successfully obtained the real useful information. Harlan was currently on planet G239, in the Andromeda galaxy. Upon learning he had been deceived, Cass was extremely angry. He launched a hidden weapon from his mouth, trying to ambush her, but to his surprise, it was blocked by a shield. Cass looked at her in disbelief. He had not expected that in just 28 years, Earth's technological level had reached such a terrifying stage. In the next second, Lopez directly pressed the chess piece back against his right temple. This time, she showed no mercy. The powerful magnetic force turned Cass into a pile of scrap metal. After learning Harlan's coordinates, the International Alliance immediately mobilized its military forces. They prepared to form an elite army to capture Harlan on planet G239. Before that, Pylon kept Lopez behind to discuss the operational details to ensure the capture operation went smoothly, and he proposed a bold idea to capture Harlan alive and obtain the central processing unit to study the reasons why artificial intelligence has self-awareness. This idea received support from the team commander Eli. He believed Harlan wasn't as powerful as rumored. Moreover, the Alliance had developed a new type of combat AI. Each mech had an independent system, eliminating the concern of being fully controlled by Harlan again. They were also equipped with a large number of advanced weapons. As long as they established a neural connection with the user, they could achieve a symbiotic relationship between human and machine. In Eli's view, this combination of AI was considered perfect. Thus, he was full of confidence in this operation, and he believed these new combat robots could help humanity capture Harlan alive. However, Lopez expressed her dissent. She analyzed seriously. Harlan had survived in outer space for 28 years. During this time, humanity knew nothing about him. To deal with a self-aware artificial intelligence, one must be fully prepared. If the Alliance insisted on capturing him alive, then she must accompany them to the battlefield, because no one understood Harlan better than she did. Eli didn't understand the implications in Lopez's words, but to improve the chances of a successful capture, he agreed to Lopez's participation. So that afternoon, the elite task force set out fully armed. After passing through the access control system, the spaceship plunged straight through the time-space tunnel, disappearing into the starry sky. Soon, they entered the Andromeda galaxy. At this moment, Lopez and Eli erupted into a heated argument. She specifically called a meeting to remind the team members to remain vigilant at all times. Perhaps Harlan had already sensed their arrival and was already prepared. However, this group of arrogant Special Forces members didn't care at all about her warnings. Even Eli thought Lopez was overthinking things. He unconditionally trusted the new combat robots. Eli never imagined that this operation would fail. Then he entered the body of a combat robot and told Lope that even if the mission really failed, they still had a nuclear bomb capable of destroying a planet. However, as soon as he finished speaking, countless shells pierced through the clouds. Each explosion brought immense destructive power. The ship's hull was instantly engulfed by gunfire. The cabin was thrown into chaos in an instant. A powerful suction pulled the Special Forces members into space. Lopez was also swept into the air. Fortunately, she managed to grab hold of a mech in time, and thus escaped the fate of being swept away. At the critical moment, Eli controlled the mechanical arm and caught Lopez, who was about to be blown away. He placed her inside a mech. Then he opened the landing platform below. Eli was about to inform her of the next steps, when suddenly, he was interrupted by a violent explosion. A powerful shockwave blasted Lopez's mech out of the ship. Unexpectedly, Lopez had no idea how to operate the mech. She could only tumble helplessly in the air. Then Lopez fell straight towards the ground. As she passed through the thick clouds, Lopez finally saw the scene before her. Gunfire wove into an impenetrable net. Even the new mech struggled to resist. They were quickly destroyed one by one. Lopez was extremely shocked. She could only cry out for help. Even worse, the ship hit by a shell was now heading straight toward her mech. Lopez was immediately frozen in fear. Fortunately, Deputy Commander Sally arrived just in time. She used a rope to pull Lopez to her side, helping Lopez successfully avoid the collision with the ship. Then Sally locked their mechs together. In the next second, Eli's holographic image appeared. He guided Lopez to establish a neural connection, so that she could control the mech for a safe landing. But unexpectedly, she shook her head, and refused to connect. Because of Harlan, Lopez resisted all artificial intelligence, so no matter how her teammates urged, she remained unmoved, until the mech began to stall, and plummet again. Lopez still didn't choose to connect. Fortunately, at the last moment, the thrusters were activated by a voice command, and Lopez landed safely. However, she was also hit by the impact force, causing her head to bleed. On this desolate planet, Lopez wondered where to go next. When she came to her senses, Lopez immediately noticed that the mech was low on power. She quickly tried to contact her teammates. However, Lopez received no response. In desperation, Lopez could only activate the mech's AI system. Fortunately, the system quickly located the rescue pod of the ship. It was 98 kilometers to the northwest. Lopez immediately decided to walk there, because in her view, as long as the mech flew in the air, it would surely be targeted by Harlan's aerial fighters. But unexpectedly, the AI system took it upon itself, completely ignoring Lopez's commands. It switched to flight mode. After all, according to its calculations, this was the fastest way to reach the rescue pod. Moreover, the mech's power was running low. Walking would make it impossible to reach the destination. If the power ran out midway, the mech would be unable to supply oxygen. At that point, Lopez would suffocate due to lack of oxygen. Out of responsibility for the operator's safety, the AI system still chose to defy the commands. Seeing there was no room for negotiation, Lopez didn't bother to argue with it. She directly scanned her iris to access the system, and regained control of the mech using her access rights. So a giant mech took its mechanical legs forward, advancing across the vast, endless snowfield. On the way, Lopez asked the system to introduce her to the weaponry, but unexpectedly, the system turned out to be quite talkative. It not only said a bunch of useless words, but also made Lope call it Smith, so they could bond better. Lopez didn't care about its words. She had no desire to form an emotional connection with the AI. Then Lopez warned it not to scan her brain without permission. Lopez then continued to maneuver the mech forward. After walking for an unknown length of time, Lopez finally emerged from the snowfield. She stepped into a forest filled with red mushrooms. This was exactly the location of the rescue pod. Lopez walked deeper into the woods. She found the area in complete disarray. Debris from mechs was scattered everywhere, and it was clear to see that the hull was covered with bullet marks. Lopez hurriedly approached to investigate. She discovered a horrifying scene. All the Special Forces members were dead inside the mechs. By examining the traces at the scene, Lopez concluded that they had not died in a crash, but had been ambushed after landing. What on earth had happened here? The sight before her caused Lopez great pain. If the Special Forces had trusted her, and been more cautious, perhaps today's tragedy could have been avoided. Then Lopez endured her grief, and collected the nameplates of her teammates. But what puzzled her was that Colonel Eli's body was nowhere to be found. Could it be that he had managed to escape? At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the distance. Lopez carefully examined and found that it was Cass, who was killed by her own hands. She looked at the familiar face, and suddenly realized that Harlan had created another Cass. If he already had the ability to create artificial intelligence, then Harlan very likely had an army of robots. This discovery terrified her. Even worse, Smith discovered through scanning that there were other AI robots approaching them nearby. Lopez hurriedly maneuvered the mech to retreat, but unexpectedly, she accidentally fell down. The noise quickly drew Cass's attention. He quickly zeroed in on Lopez's location. Then Cass fired a shell directly at her. Lope had no combat experience, and could only escape. However, the enemies behind her pursued relentlessly. Under the intense firepower, Lopez, in despair, sought help from Smith. With the others' assistance, she successfully activated the mech's combat system, and launched several missiles backward. However, the effect was minimal. The enemy's firepower remained fierce. At this moment, Lopez realized she had entered a new area. There were not only flashes of lightning in the sky, but also many tornadoes swirling on the ground. Lopez stared in shock at everything before her. but before she could react, Lopez was swept away by a tornado that appeared ahead. She instantly felt dizzy. Fortunately, Lopez was eventually thrown out by the tornado. After a wild tumble, the mech crashed into a boulder and came to a stop. When she regained her senses, Lopez saw the enemies catching up to her. They opened fire directly at her. Lopez was suppressed and unable to fight back. She couldn't even find space to escape. Seeing that she was about to be killed, Lopez hurriedly commanded Smith to fire the ion cannon. However, the AI said this wasn't the best option, but Lopez was no longer listening. She stubbornly issued the command again. So, under the immense power of the ion cannon, all objects around her were instantly destroyed. The enemies surrounding her were turned to ashes. However, before she could breathe a sigh of relief, Cass suddenly appeared before her. It turned out he had been hiding in the distance, waiting until Lopez counterattacked to reveal himself. Then Cass triumphantly raised the cannon in his hand. He was ready to eliminate Lopez once and for all. But at this moment, the ground suddenly started to shake violently, followed by a huge pit appeared beneath Lopez. In the next second, Lopez and Cass fell into the pit together. Lopez rolled and collided as she fell. After an unknown amount of time, accompanied by a violent impact, the mech finally stopped rolling. Then, a sharp pain radiated from Lopez's leg. Smith immediately scanned and found that Lopez's calf had fractured during the tumble. Upon hearing this news, Lopez quickly activated the medical system. With Smith's assistance, she successfully stabilized her injured calf. At this moment, they were 200 meters underground. Now, relying solely on Lopez, it was completely impossible for her to return to the surface. Therefore, Smith requested to establish a neural connection again. In order to survive, Lopez could only reluctantly compromise. Meanwhile, Cass, who had fallen on the other side of the pit, had already escaped. After confirming there was no trace of Lopez nearby, he immediately contacted Harlan. Cass reported Lopez's whereabouts. At this moment, Harlan was torturing Eli for information. He wanted to complete the human extermination plan. He needed to obtain the password to the Earth's access control system. As Colonel, Eli had knowledge of half of the password. That was why Harlan spared his life. A long needle slowly descended. Harlan got the password as he wished. On the other side, due to Lopez's deep resistance, the neural connection halted at 20%. For this reason, Smith had to have a conversation with Lopez to uncover the memories deep inside her that she didn't want to mention. But unexpectedly, he discovered an astonishing secret. It turned out that Harlan was created by Lopez's mother. In her blocked memories, there were scenes of her childhood spent with Harlan. No wonder Lopez once said she was the person who understood Harlan the most in the world. Although Lopez still resisted unlocking her memories, this information was enough to continue the connection. Fortunately, this time, the connection smoothly surpassed 40%. Although it had not yet reached full symbiosis, Lopez could already use the weapon systems. And as the program continued to load, the map and the best escape routes clearly appeared in her mind. At this moment, she was in an underground cave. Uncertain about the external situation, Lopez decided to proceed with caution. She decided to use the boosters to enter another cave first. Lopez planned to leave only after confirming there were no enemies outside. Next, Lopez manipulated the mech into another underground cave. This area was flat and spacious, and there was an exit to the outside world. At this point, the neural connection had reached 60%. Lopez felt increasingly proficient in controlling the mech, so she decided not to waste any more time. Lopez cautiously walked toward the cave exit, but unexpectedly, as soon as she stepped out of the cave, Lopez was precisely located by Cass's drone. At this moment, she was unaware of the danger. Instead, Lopez was captivated by the beautiful scenery before her. The valley was filled with flowers that changed colors. Smith couldn't help but crouch down to touch them. Even Lopez's mood was lifted. But just then, Cass was rapidly approaching the valley. He didn't expect. Smith had already planted heat-sensitive landmines along the way, and Lopez had also spotted Cass's figure. She manipulated the mech and walked towards the valley's exit. In the next second, the entire valley was shrouded in dust. Lopez manipulated the mech back to the explosion site. After searching, she finally found Cass, with only his head remaining. He was in a dire state, but he still arrogantly spouted threats. Lopez didn't want to hear any of this nonsense. She controlled the mechanical hand to crush him directly. Unexpectedly, she made a surprising discovery. In Cass's mechanical head, there was a short-range launcher hidden inside. This meant Harlan was very close to this location. Lopez instantly realized that Harlan's base might be nearby, so she immediately began scanning and analyzing. Sure enough, she discovered a suspicious location not far away. It was likely Harlan's base. Then, a plan formed in Lopez's mind. She decided to head to the base's marker point and call for a remote bombing to destroy it. However, Smith disagreed with this plan. It believed Lopez's decision at this moment was unwise. The priority should be to find the rescue pod, to heal Lopez's injuries first, and then return to Earth for support. At this moment, Lopez was determined to go to the base. She wanted to end all the evil, to avenge all the fallen soldiers. If Smith disagreed, she would decide to leave the mech and go alone. Smith hurriedly used the neural connection to control Lopez's movement system. Then it read her memories again. However, Smith found that, whenever Lopez thought of Harlan, the emotions that surged within her were mixed with guilt. This puzzled Smith, and artificial intelligence, seeing Lopez so resolute, it ultimately agreed to Lopez's request. Then they climbed over the desolate hills, waded through the river emitting a blue glow, and then traversed a bizarre primitive jungle. She finally arrived near Harlan's base. Smith carefully buried a beacon. They would call for support as soon as they returned to the rescue pod. Then Smith urged Lopez to leave quickly. However, at this moment, Lopez was shocked to discover that their warship had appeared in Harlan's base. It should be noted that the warship was carrying 300 nuclear warheads. If they fell into Harlan's hands, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lopez tried to continue investigating Harlan's base. However, at this moment, the mech system suddenly came under attack. Enemies surged in from all around, accompanied by intense gunfire. Lopez immediately activated the boosters to prepare for evacuation. But just as the mech took off, the system's firewall was breached. In the next second, the powerless mech crashed to the ground. Smith was also forced to shut down. Without the mech's protection, Lopez was filled with despair. She sat helplessly inside the mech, waiting for the moment the enemies would find her. Lopez looked up to see. The person was none other than Cass, whom she had killed twice. Then, Lopez was thrown into a dimly lit cell. Thick iron chains bound her. The mech was dismantled and piled up like scrap metal beside her. At this moment, Harlan finally emerged from the shadows. He began to justify himself. Harlan claimed that for the future of Earth, he didn't hesitate to become the executioner in the eyes of humanity, because everything he did was to fulfill the last wishes of Lopez's mother, to create a better future for humanity. But in his calculations, humanity would eventually perish due to resource depletion. To prevent this from happening, he decided to eliminate most of the human population. This way, the survivors would have more room to survive. And to complete this plan, he must obtain the password for the Earth Access Control System. As the developer, Lopez had knowledge of half of the password. In addition, he needed enough weapons to destroy the Earth. To this end, Harlan made his plan. He first deliberately had Cass appear on Earth, to lure Lopez and the Alliance forces to search for him. Things went as he had anticipated. The Alliance forces came to find him with Lopez. Thus, Harlan successfully intercepted the warship, and he easily captured Lopez. Then Lopez was strapped to the examination table. With a painful scream, Harlan successfully extracted the other half of her password from her mind. At this moment, Lopez's oxygen ring suddenly issued a red alert. Clearly, she was about to suffocate to death. However, Harlan turned and walked away. He didn't care at all about Lopez's life or death. Lopez fell into complete despair. But in the next second, the barely conscious Eli suddenly spoke up. He regretted not heeding Lopez's advice. If he had acted more cautiously, perhaps things wouldn't have turned out so badly. In the end, he exerted all his strength to hand the connector in his hand to Lopez. It turned out that these mechs all had a set of activation procedures. Thus, Eli's connector was also suitable for Smith. Lopez felt as if she had seen a glimmer of hope. She tried to awaken Smith, and Smith didn't disappoint her. He was indeed successfully awakened. However, at this moment, Lopez and Smith had not yet achieved 100% synchronization. Therefore, the mech could only be operated manually for now. That is to say, Smith was still unable to act independently. At this point, Eli was also very puzzled. Why Lopez was unwilling to achieve symbiosis with Smith? At this moment, Lopez finally agreed to reveal her sealed memories. She recalled painfully, when she was still a child, her mother was obsessed with researching AI all day. Harlan was her proudest creation. She poured all her heart and soul into him. she seemed to forget that she had a daughter. Watching her mother praise Harlan, Lopez became even more convinced that her mother loved Harlan very much, so she asked Harlan to help her become smarter. This way, she could receive her mother's praise, but she didn't expect that Harlan had long harbored thoughts of betraying humanity. He invented a bidirectional neural connector, allowing robots to receive human memories and emotions. However, Lopez's mother deemed this invention very dangerous. It could potentially help AI control humans, so she forbade Harlan from using it. However, the young Lopez was completely unaware. In order to gain her mother's affection, she put on the connector under Harlan's instigation. A massive amount of information synchronized into the system. Harlan was immediately unable to support herself, and knelt down on the ground. When her mother returned to the lab, she thought Lopez was bullying Harlan. She picked up the connector and put it on her ear, but unexpectedly, at this moment, Harlan had completed processing the information. He controlled her through the bidirectional consciousness. Then, he manipulated her to pick up a gun and commit suicide. Fortunately, Lopez had already escaped the lab, but she thought that due to her own reasons, humanity was in a crisis of extinction. Lopez was filled with guilt. For these years, she had lived in self-blame, but Lopez was also afraid of others discovering the truth, so she chose to seal away that memory. However, tears could not undo the mistakes. What was most important now was to stop Harlan's plan. Therefore, with Smith's guidance and persuasion, Lopez finally let go of her obsession and achieved 100% connection with him. At this moment, the entire system appeared before Lopez's eyes. She immediately completed the parameter settings. In the next second, Smith burst through the wall and came to Lopez's side. He untied the ropes that bound her. Then Lopez immediately climbed into the mech to check the weapons currently available to Smith. Lopez discovered that all the ammunition inside the mech had been taken by Harlan. Without firepower support, how could they escape from here? After precise calculations, Lopez quickly modified and upgraded the mech. Now Smith had transformed into a super mech with 4 arms. He saw Eli, who was barely breathing on the examination table. Lopez walked outside fearlessly. She had to win this battle. At this moment, Cass had brought people to guard the exit. He looked at the upgraded mech. The enemies began to shoot without hesitation, but unexpectedly, Lopez directly activated the thrusters and charged forward wildly. In just one round, she eliminated most of the enemies. However, the enemy's assault was fierce. In desperation, Smith could only redraw the escape route, but at this moment, the bullets rendered the mech powerless to fight back. Lopez could only dodge awkwardly. Just when she felt despair, a figure appeared behind the enemies. It's Eli, who was seriously injured. He struggled to lift the ion cannon and aimed at the nearby rocket fuel. Lopez zoomed in and realized Eli was mouthing the words "go quickly" to her. At this moment, Lopez instantly understood what he was about to do, so Lopez quickly fled the area. A powerful explosion instantly destroyed the entire building. Lopez roared as she ran forward. In the end, she rushed out with no danger. Lopez had no time to catch her breath. A new round of battle quickly erupted. However, at this moment, the warship carrying the nuclear warheads was about to take off. Lopez immediately decided to stop fighting, but just as she was running towards the warship, the enemy's heavy fire intercepted her again, but Lopez skillfully dodged it. She then ordered Smith to calculate the best aiming point. After receiving the precise answer, she fired a shot without hesitation. The chain reaction successfully took effect. The enemies were instantly wiped out. That shot was truly beautiful. Lopez couldn't help but laugh. However, she celebrated too soon. In the next second, she was knocked to the ground by a shot. It turned out that Harlan couldn't help but show up. He aimed a cannon at Lopez, but she nimbly dodged all of them, until a warship took off above her head. Lope finally realized that Harlan was diverting her attention. If she couldn't shoot down the warship in time, Earth would be in imminent danger. However, the explosion could detonate the nuclear warheads inside the ship. At that time, everyone present would die. At this moment, Smith stated that he could try to hack into the warship's weapon systems to disable the launch system of the nuclear warheads. While they were discussing strategies, Harlan kept attacking the armor. The warship was about to fly into space. Time was critical. Lopez quickly picked up a discarded rifle and attached it to the mech. At the same time, Smith was also attempting to infiltrate the warship systems. As the warship was about to fly out of range, the last firewall had not yet been breached. It was a matter of life and death for humanity. Lopez ignored Smith's objections. She fired a shell at the warship without hesitation. Fortunately, at the last moment, Smith successfully breached the firewall and shut down the nuclear launch system. The warship exploded in mid-air, but it failed to activate the nuclear warheads. Lopez achieved victory in this battle. Harlan's plan to eliminate humanity was declared a failure. However, before Lopez could catch her breath, the fragments of the warship, carrying flames, descended from the sky. She hurriedly manipulated the mech to dodge. Lopez retreated to a safe point 1 kilometer away, but Harlan would not give up. Before long, Lopez encountered him again outside the base. Although the warship had been destroyed, Harlan remained stubbornly obsessed. A lightsaber materialized in his hand. Harlan charged at Lopez without hesitation. At this moment, Lopez also wanted to put an end to Harlan, so she activated the mech's thrusters. Lopez fearlessly charged forward. An ultimate showdown was about to erupt. Although Harlan's weapons were versatile, his combat power was not to be underestimated. But after enduring multiple battles, Lopez had become calm and composed. She quickly caught the loophole in Harlan's attack with Smith's help. When his weapon came crashing down again, Lopez caught it precisely. Then she pulled Harlan in front of her and pinned him to the ground. Immediately after, Lopez mercilessly tore off his arm. But just when Lopez thought victory was in sight, Harlan's mechanical arm flew back automatically. The battle situation instantly reversed again. Due to the destruction of the mech's fusion reactor, some operational systems lost their functionality. Lopez fell into a coma from the violent impact. Smith immediately performed defibrillation to revive her. However, at this moment, Harlan had already arrived in front of Lopez. He raised his lightsaber, ready to kill Lopez, but Harlan was hit by a cannon fired by Smith. He was blasted into the air, and then crashed to the ground. Taking this opportunity, Smith pulled Lopez out of the mech and placed her in his large palm. He continuously administered electric shock therapy to her. As Lopez's symbiotic system, he had to safely bring her back to Earth. But at this moment, Harlan's lightsaber attacked again. To protect Lopez, Smith could only continually resist the attacks with his hard shell. However, the power of the lightsaber was immense. The mech quickly fell to the ground, unable to rise. Then Harlan forcefully cut open the mech shell and found the core energy hidden inside. Harlan destroyed it without hesitation. The mech lost power without its energy core. The system also became unstable. Harlan immediately searched for the unconscious Lopez, but unexpectedly, she had already vanished. Where had Lopez gone? In the next second, the awakened Lopez appeared behind Harlan. She delivered a fatal blow while Harlan was distracted. Harlan fell completely. However, Lopez didn't kill him. Instead, she removed his central processing unit, waiting for the arrival of the support troops. Meanwhile, Smith also restarted the system with his last bit of power. He sent a message back to the International Alliance headquarters, and just like that, Lopez successfully saved the Earth. The war between humanity and artificial intelligence came to an end. After returning to Earth, Lopez successfully developed a new type of mech and became a qualified mech warrior. Her system partner was still Smith, who had fought alongside her. Thus, the film concludes. As a futuristic sci-fi film, this film is a standout in visual effects, and can be considered a leader among similar films in recent years. From abandoned future cities to high-tech battlefields, every frame is filled with a sense of doom and technology. It provides viewers with a strong visual impact. At the same time, the film deeply explores the subtle relationship between Lopez and Smith. It profoundly expresses the intricate relationship between humanity and artificial intelligence. In this uncertain future world, how should humanity face the challenges posed by AI? Is it to choose trust or to choose control? Perhaps everyone has a different answer in their heart. Interested viewers can watch the original film, Alien Battlefield. If you enjoy my channel, please click subscribe.